Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Helen and today I'm going to be sharing my December 2020 wrap up with you. So in December I read 19 books. The first of these was Frat Girl by Kylie Roach. I read this on my phone and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Frat Girl is about a young woman called Cassandra who decides to infiltrate her college's fraternity in an attempt to prove the sexism that occurs there. It was a really good look into a culture I knew very little about, the culture of fraternities and sororities, and in the end I really enjoyed it, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read in December was Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin set in Russia, and it follows a woman called Miriam who is her town's money lender and money collector, and she's so good at making money the Fairy King asks her to, or the King of the Stark asks her to change silver into gold, which she does. It was a really good read and I gave it 4.25 out of 5 stars. My next read in December was Dark Dawn, the final book in the Nevernight Chronicles. The Nevernight Chronicles follows Mia Kavore, who swears revenge on the people who kill her family. While I enjoyed this final instalment, I found the ending ultimately mildly disappointing and gave it 4.25 out of 5 stars. The rest of it was good enough to make up for the ending, which I know a lot of people love. I then read I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. This is about Angel, a young girl or a young woman in a fandom for a fictional band, and the book dealt with issues such as anxiety, depression, and yeah, it was very enjoyable. I've never been in a fandom, so I can't say how accurate this was, but I enjoyed the book and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I then read Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, which follows Richard Mayhew, an accountant in London who falls between the cracks and into another London underneath. This again was really enjoyable and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. At this point in December, I fell into a reading slump and ended up rereading a lot of books that I enjoyed when I read them for the first time. So the first one I reread was Red, White and Royal Blue. This is a romance novel between two characters, Henry, or Harry, Prince of Wales, and Alex, who is America's first son. And I mean, it's not the most accurate representation of England or Great Britain, and I assume it's not the most accurate representation of America, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I then reread Castle in the Air by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the second book in the Howl's Moving Castle trilogy, and in this we follow Abdullah, who is a carpet merchant from Zanzibar, and he daydreams a lot, and his daydreams start coming true. So yeah, it was a lot of fun and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars? No, 4.25 out of 5 stars. The next series of books I read or reread were all in the Chrestomanci series by Diana Wynne Jones. This series follows Chrestomanci, who is a 9-lifed enchanter and has to oversee the use of magic in all the worlds. And there's a lot of them and I've read them all before and really enjoyed rereading them. The first one I reread was Witch Week, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. This is set in a world where magic is common but illegal, and it deals with the pupils of a boarding school. I then reread Comrade's Fate, which is about a large house and pulling probabilities. I gave that 4.5 out of 5 stars. The Pinhole Egg, which is about a griffin egg, I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. And Charmed Life, which is about one of the main characters of the series, Cat Chant, who goes to live with Chrestomanci, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And I also read The Lives of Christopher Chant, which is about Christopher Chant, and I gave that 4 out of 5 stars as well. The next book I read in December was House of Leaves by Mark Danielowski. This is a book about a film, and the film is fictional, and it's a critical appreciation of the film, with footnotes from someone reading the critical appreciation. The film is about a house that has corridors, and the corridors appear and disappear and change in length. And I gave it 4.75 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a really great read, and like nothing else I've ever read before. The footnotes in this book are insane, and you have to read them, and they sort of just go round and round and round. There's also codes in this book towards the end. It is incredibly difficult to read, but incredibly rewarding. I then read Enchantée by Gina Trellis. This is a book set in revolutionary France, and it follows a woman who is sneaking into the gambling dens of Marie Antoinette's palace in order to get money for her and her family. And she meets a young gentleman who owns a hot air balloon, and it was a lot of fun. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, but really recommend it, and I cannot wait to continue on with the series. I then reread, this was my final reread of the month however, Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the Grishaverse trilogy and is about a young woman called Alina who discovers that she is Grisha, having previously thought that she is nothing special, or nothing special in their world. She gets whisked away to the little palace where the Grisha are taught, and there she begins to fall under the spell of the enigmatic Darkling, a man who has commanded the armies of this world for over a century and whose ancestors have been doing it long before him. This book is brilliant. Well, this book, I don't think it's as good as her later series, the Six of Crows series. However, she writes an incredibly compelling character in The Darkling. And in this book, I actually quite like Mal, a character I do later hate. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed rereading it, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The next thing I read, or rather listened to, was the Book of the Year 2019 by No Such Thing as a Fish. This is by the same people who do the No Such Thing as a Fish podcast, the QI Elves, and it was absolutely amazing. I love the podcast, so I kind of went into this expecting to love it. It is essentially a collection of the world's weirdest news, and it does not mention Brexit once. In the book, when you see the word Brexit, it is blurred out, and in the podcast it is beeped out. I mean, the audiobook, it is beeped out. This book is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it to any fact junkies or people who just want to learn more about weird things that happened this year. The next book I read this month was The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This was the finale to the Folk of the Air series, which follows Jude Duarte, who is sent or taken to Fairyland following the death of her parents. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. In the end, it was quite a disappointing ending to the series, and I just didn't enjoy it that much. I felt it was too heavy on the romance, far too short, and just wasn't what I was hoping for. However, it did manage to use a trope that I normally hate and really use it well, so that is a positive. I'm sad I had to give it this, or I'm sad I gave it this, and I'm sad I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would, but I'm glad I read it, and I'm glad I finished the series out. The next book I read was Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is set in a store called Orsk, which is essentially a low-budget IKEA, and this particular Orsk is haunted. I'm not sure if I'm saying Orsk right. Anyway, so this girl, Amy, is asked by her boss to spend a night in there, which she reluctantly agrees to do, and they believe it is merely going to be vandals. It turns out to be rather more than that. This was not what I was expecting. I was expecting something fairly humorous, and it was incredibly nasty at times, but I still really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it's definitely encouraged me to read more horror in the new year. And then the final book I read in 2019 was Sailor Moon Volume 2. This follows immediately on after the events of Sailor Moon Volume 1, and it has more about the legendary Silver Crystal, and the Pretty Guardians are fighting Queen Beryl. It was a lot of fun. I do kind of laugh when I read these books, because whenever I read the word Beryl, I'm like, oh, that's not a very threatening name, and then I remember that she is the villain. but I still really recommend this manga series. It is absolutely beautifully illustrated, which is lovely, and Tuxedo Mask is a great character, as are all the pretty guardians. My personal favourite is Sailor Mercury. If you've read them, let me know who yours is down below. I cannot wait to continue on with the series, and will definitely be doing so in 2019. So those are all the books I read in December. My favourite by far was Witch Week, which, as it was a reread, was slightly disappointing, but I did discover loads of great books this month. And I finished out some series that I've been meaning to finish out for ages, which is great. And also the audiobook of the Book of the Year 2019 was brilliant. I cannot wait to see what 2020 has in store for me reading-wise and with my YouTube channel. And I hope that you guys will continue watching me. It's been so great doing this channel since October. It hasn't been very long. And it's been such an enjoyable experience, and I'm so glad I took the plunge and did it. I'd like to say thank you so much to everyone who's watched this video. If you want to find me on any of my socials, I am on Twitter at Cats and Tea Books, on Instagram, Reading with Cats and Tea, and I'll link my Goodreads down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment about any of these books that you've read or would like to read, and please subscribe. And I am going to go now and get started on my January 2020 reading. Thank you so much for watching this. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!